Okay, so again, I really thank all y'all for taking the time out tonight to come out and pop in on this Zoom. This is really a time that's critically needed for everybody's voice to be heard, and especially to hear from our perspective, from a Black woman is ultra important. Specifically for me, I realize the work that Black women do for the community and for the world, and I also realize how shunned and quieted your voices are. So at this point, I really want to be a platform to give you an amplifier to make it as loud as possible and to get your own narratives out and get your own perspectives out, because nobody else can speak for you. You can speak for yourself in this instance. So this is Black Girl Magic. And, I got to stay away from diving too far in because I don't want to mansplain here. Obviously, I'm the only guy here, and I don't want to step on any toes. So I'm gonna step back. I'm gonna let you guys, take the floor a little bit. But I want to check on you guys' mental health. A lot of things are going on in America. Black Lives Matter seem like it's quieted down from the media, but we know from our own community that the turmoil still exists, right? And so just give me and give everybody else, I guess, a little snippet into how your mental health is doing in the wake of all of this.
Um, Ashley, I guess I'll go ahead and start. Um, I think personally, right now, if I were to go from a 1 to 10, I'm probably at a 7. With everything with COVID, I think as Black women, we're expected to always be strong because we are. And I think with COVID going on, that kind of put the brakes on a lot to really bring things into perspective, not being able to move around like you would like to, have super cautious. And then in the middle of Black Lives Matter, with everything going on with George Floyd, I think it really heightened everything to where it was. I actually live in Houston. I actually went to George Floyd's viewing because the funeral was at my church. So to be able to experience that, to me, something definitely came over me. And now it does seem like it subsided some, but we can't act like just because it's not in our face in the news that it's over. And so for me as an educator, one thing as we're preparing for these schools to possibly open back up and things like that, I'm at a 7 now, but I know for me mentally, it's going to start taking a toll more as people are expecting students to go into these schools, knowing what's going on, also knowing over the summer or over these couple of months with students, they've seen all the Black Lives Matter action and everything that's been going on. So for right now, mentally, I'm at a 7. I would like to stay there or go up, but I have a feeling that in the next couple of weeks, with just kind of some heightened anxiety, that it might go down.
I think I'll go next. First off, being in the mental health field, I just want to thank you for like at least going there and checking in on our mental health, because these are some crazy times. So I definitely just want to show my appreciation for having a mental health consideration here. I know for me personally, I would also agree that I'm at a 7. Since the time of COVID, like we've all been quarantined in our house for the most part. So that has led to a lot of introspection for me, a lot of growth for me, a lot of internal work going on with me. And so just making some necessary changes to myself in my life. It hasn't been easy, but it's been necessary to have that time to myself outside of the hustle and bustle that I'm usually always in, and like just working on me, just taking the time to get myself together. So it's been a very big time of growth, but I appreciate it. So yeah.
I think for me, I just got to a 7. So I work in New Mexico, and there's maybe only like 5% Black people in the whole state. And so there's like, especially now with COVID, there is months where I just wouldn't even see like another Black person, and they have us working from home. And so I came back home to Arkansas. I've been here since I think May. But while I was there in New Mexico, I think I was probably at like a 3 or a 4, just because you don't even get to see people that look like you. And then I'm one of 2 Black people that work in our whole department. So I think right now, being back home with family, like my parents, my brothers, my nieces, and everything are in the house with me. So it's like I have that nucleus around me, help me to make sure that I'm okay. But yeah, I think for right now, I just got to a 7, and I've been working with some people at work, and we are starting to have conversations about race and what that means. And so I think they're at least trying to be open, but I think, yeah, I'm at a 7 too.
For me, I'm more at like a 5.5, 6, mainly because I am um, still working. I work in healthcare, so we're kind of on like the front lines of everything, dealing with the pandemic side of things with testing for COVID, having the increase in numbers and everyone wanting to be tested and having to oversee a lot of that. So that takes a toll on you because you're trying to be safe at the same time, help the people in the community that need it. So being aware of that always is kind of like increasing the anxiety that I have. And then being in a workspace where I do work with a lot of diverse type of people. So dealing with the Black Lives Matter and not being able to express that kind of in a workplace, even though you have people who look like you in that setting, it's still have to be very cautious about how you speak about it and what your views are, because it is a professional setting and you can't be comfortable just because you see people who look like you.
I guess I would say that I'm doing okay. I could probably be doing better. I even just talking about this, I kind of get anxiety about what's going on and just all the things that are unknown right now. I'm in healthcare as well, and I just started a job last week in physical therapy, and I work with patients for an hour at a time. And so when these topics come up, I can't just like walk away and avoid it. I have to discuss it with them. So I'm still trying to find my voice in a professional way on these topics without having to dim my light. But it's a process and it's growing, and I just got started in the field, so I'm learning. But I think overall, I would probably be at a 5, like Breonna is.
I'll say that my mental state is semi-stable, I guess. I work in the public sector. I work for the state, and the environment is very diverse. But I do have support there. I do have Black coworkers there who we feed off of each other every day. We share every day, and we talk about these things. And I think that's what's important, is that when you don't have an outlet at all, then that can be very frustrating. Just like my sister was saying, working in New Mexico and not having that outlet at all is very hard. But we also have some other people there who are, not really for the Black Lives Matter movement. So it can get tense and it can get frustrating. It's hard to focus most days. And then to come home and try to deal with, your personal life, your regular everyday life. So it's a lot. It's a lot, especially when you wear these different hats, when you're a mom, when you're a working person or a woman. It's sometimes it can be a lot to deal with. So it's a good thing to have an outlet, as well as to continue to work on our mental and emotional state. I know we as females get cast off as being, too emotional sometimes, but a lot of times having that emotion is a good thing, as long as we're nurturing ourselves and feeding into our souls and things that we need to stay grounded and to stay stable in these times. So I would say I'm semi-stable at this time, but I think we're all feeling the brunt of everything right now.
I definitely think time has allowed us to become grounded a little bit more. Just me having different conversations with you that I talk to on a regular, I can tell that, at the height of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, like things were not nowhere near a 7, but things are kind of like tapered off a little bit. Some things that you guys were saying in this workspace, right, and having support versus not having support. And Jessica mentioned dimming your light. So me specifically, like my research things that I do, like I'm looking at different social movements, and just about every social movement that the Black community has ever had, from all our slave rebellions forward, have been grunted and fronted by the Black woman, right? And so there's this narrative and like outlook that the Black man is the one who's the head. But research will show that, it's a woman that leads most of the time. And even specific to the Black Lives Matter movement in and of itself is founded by 3 Black women, right? Or 3 women of color. And so, like, how do you feel about the narrative that women can't lead, or men lead movements better?
I think I would like to speak on that one. I live in the city of Memphis, and it's been a lot of protesting, a lot of activism going on. And the thing that has inspired me the most with being on the ground is how vocal Black women are, how they are forced to be reckoned with. It's just, oh gosh. It's inspiring to see because they don't have to wear filters. They don't have to tone themselves down. They're bold. They speak out. They are in the streets. They don't mind going toe to toe with anyone there to advocate for Black lives, to advocate for what's right. And so just seeing that in action, seeing that in person, like Black women just being there with no fear at all it's been inspirational to me. It's inspired me to do even more and invest my skills and try to help move it in whatever way that I can. So I know it's a lot of hard work for Black women to do, but it's inspiring to see.
With Black women, or just being on the front lines or in the grounds there in Memphis or wherever we are, like how has the climate been? What are some of the discussions that people are posing on the ground levels?
I know, just to speak particularly, I know one younger Black woman who just realized and saw that she didn't see herself within the movement here in Memphis. So she took it upon herself to just hold a protest for Breonna Taylor, just specifically for her, because she didn't hear her name in the chants that were going on. She didn't feel like it reflected her as a Black woman. So to see her step up, just to be, I think she just turned maybe 21, and just to see that boldness in someone so young, and to see that I don't see myself here, but I want to see myself here. And she took that step out, and she brought masses of people out, and it was inspirational just to see that and just to witness it and to support that and to be there. But also I've seen other older Black women who have gone toe to toe with the governor and called him out for how he's treating Black women who, and of course, I don't know if you know, in Tennessee, they've just passed legislation on reproductive rights. And so just to see another Black woman call him out for coming to Memphis and not acknowledging what he had done to so many women, and just seeing the boldness there, it's been just to see Black women in all the different shapes and forms, and like going and being and speaking up for themselves where they don't see themselves. It's been moving to see and transformative to see, and also it's been great to be involved with. So
I want to add something on to that. You brought up Breonna Taylor, and I was thinking about this the other day. When everything was going on with George Floyd, I believe Breonna Taylor, all of the information about what happened with the unfortunate, killing of her, I feel like George Floyd, because there was a video and it was everywhere, I think his name kind of flooded out everything with Breonna Taylor. And for me, continue to see, because clearly her killers, we're not going to say the officers, clearly her killers have not been arrested. And every day on social media, when I'm seeing the reminders of her killers not being arrested, to me, I feel like I'm seeing majority Black women that are the ones that are making sure we don't forget her killers have still not been arrested. This is something that happened over 100-something days ago. And another thing that I feel like a lot of times, like it was a radio show I was listening to, and they were saying George Floyd, and they were like naming George Floyd. They were, saying all the names, and you have to keep on having people say Breonna Taylor, like making sure that you continue. And we as Black women don't mind speaking up and reminding you, hey, there's also a Black woman that also, in similar situation, lost their life, unfortunately, due to just, this nonsense that we're dealing with. So we definitely, I feel, are making sure that we're keeping our foot on people's necks to make sure that they realize that, yes, this is still happening. And yes, it's happening to Black women as well, even though overwhelmingly it's happening to our Black men. But let's not forget that there are women who have, like Breonna Taylor, who've gone through this also.
With that idea, I'll ask the question of how safe do you feel as a Black woman, right? I know, not from your perspective, but I know just from research and just hearing stories, storytelling, and narratives of how difficult it is to have this triple-edged sword against you by being a female, by being Black, then also being that Black female in conjunction to that. So, like, how does your mental capacity, elevate or depreciate with everything that you're trying to do and navigate?
For me, as a Black woman, a lot of times I don't feel safe. I feel like I have to be on defense mode a lot of the times, and especially now with what's going on. I feel like as a Black woman, a lot of times if you do choose to be the one to stand up for yourself or for someone else who looks like you get a label as being angry. And I feel like that's for me a lot of the reasons why I think I have to dim my light on situations, because I don't want to play into that narrative. But there are times, and I think the time is now for us as women, as Black women, to stand up for ourselves and for Breonna Taylor and all the other women who have lost their lives to brutality. But society isn't ready for that. I think at large, a lot of people in society aren't ready for Black women to stand up as the leaders that we are. And even within the Black community, when Black women decide to stand up and speak out on things, sometimes we get lashed from our own community because there's this tug of war between Black women and Black men. Which one should be the leader? And, women should kind of dim their light so that Black men can get a light shined upon them, because a lot of the times, majority men who are marginalized in these ways, like police brutality. So as a woman, I don't feel, as a Black woman, I don't feel safe a lot of the times, but I'm still going to stand up for myself and for other women and shine that light on those issues that people are forgetting, like Breonna Taylor.
I think for me, I have a very fluid response. I think it kind of just depends on the situation. Like sometimes at work, I don't necessarily feel safe, but then other times I do, or whether I'm in the classroom or something. So for me, it kind of depends on the situation, but I have found myself getting to the point where I'm not going to say I don't care, but it's like I do get to the point where I don't care. Like I'm going to say what I have to say, especially if I'm helping myself or someone in my department, because I know we've had certain situations. I met with a group of people in my department a couple of weeks ago, and they were just talking about, oh, this is a safe space, you could say whatever you want. And then someone said something and everyone kind of shunned them and was saying, no, you shouldn't say that. We need to be this way and we need to be this way. And like before I could even catch myself, I was just like, well, this isn't a safe space then. If you're going to tell people that they can't have their opinion or they can't say anything and that person is being respectful, then this isn't a safe space. I said, that's just like if I say something and it makes y'all uncomfortable, y'all will be quick to say that I'm the angry Black woman. And everybody was just kind of looking at me, and I had like private messages sent to me like, oh, thank you for saying that. Like I felt the same way. And it's like, well, that's the issue. Like nobody is speaking up, but the people of color, it's like everyone still needs to speak up and help everyone around them. I'm one person, I'm one Black African-American female in my department, and I can't be the only one like speaking up. So I do think that I am getting to the point where I don't care, but I'm not doing it in like a disrespectful way. It's just like, no, I'm in this space as well. And if you truly want this to be a safe space, then you have to allow people to say what they feel, especially if they're saying it in a respectful way.
I definitely agree. It is fluid. In some situations, I do feel safe. In others, not so much. And you will really be surprised in the situations where you think you would be safe to be, a Black woman, and then you're surprised that they're not as receptive. many cases in the spaces where I think I would be safe to speak as a Black woman, you always get the rebuttals of, well, you know, you shouldn't say that because you're in this position, or you should be careful how you say that because you don't want the people who are around you to be offended. But if I'm speaking to you about the truth and like the situations that are happening, then no one should be offended because this is what's happening to me and you because you look like me. And you would just really be surprised in the spaces where you wouldn't think you would be safe, and you are. And I think a lot of times as Black women, we aren't safe because when we speak out, we are getting backlash not only from people who don't look like us, but the people who do look like us, the people that we're fighting for, out of fear most of the time. They're afraid that we might lose the positions that we're in, or that we might not be able to excel in the future because of things we said. But again, like Jacoby said, at this point, you're going to be against me anyway, or you're going to agree with me regardless. So I have to get to the point where I just say what I need to say to speak up for the people that I need to speak up for. And then whatever comes with it just comes with it at this point, because I can't continue to tether to decide do I want to say it and keep my livelihood, or do I want to stand for what I believe in and not be a coward? So I do agree. At this point, you kind of have to just be who you are and say what you have to say to protect the people that you care about.
I would say that I feel safe in my home. I will say that throughout this whole duration that we have really had peace in our home. I'm thankful for that. And at work, I do to a certain extent feel safe, but that's I guess that goes both ways, because like you were saying, as far as no physical harm, we don't have anyone from outside coming in due to COVID, so there's nobody in there. The few people that are there, it's just us essential workers. So nobody gets to come in from the outside. But during all of this, you have kind of came to learn a different side of some of your coworkers. I'm sure y'all can relate. So at times you do wonder, are we having that conversation in the break room too loud, you know, or how they feel about me wearing my Black Lives Matter shirt, or, you know. So at work, I guess it kind of goes in twofold, because I don't feel like I would be in any physical harm, but you wonder who would throw you under the bus for just being able to, or having the desire to express yourself. Because we need, like I said earlier, we need that outlet. Let me wear the shirt. Let me cry 5 minutes in the break room. Let me have this conversation. Let me get this out so that I can function and do what you are paying me to do. I will say that being in East Texas is smaller, but racism is still very evident here. When I first moved here 10 years ago from Dallas, I experienced it, and I immediately called my dad and was like, "Dad, really, this is still going on here?" There was an elderly white couple, and I say elderly, they were like maybe 70s. They didn't want me to service them because I was a colored girl, as they said. So the racism is still very evident here. I mean, it's real. It's still occurring here in East Texas. But I guess, you know, when you actually experience something like that, it blew my mind. I didn't know it was still a factor in the country. So when I go to certain places like, you know, Walmart, if I have to go out, or to the dollar store if I have to go out, you know, you are kind of on guard nowadays. You know, you're making sure you're locking that door when you get in your car when you're alone, or I don't let my children go out for fear of, you know, them having any type of interaction. And it's not necessarily about COVID. It's about everything that's going on right now. We don't know who's for us and who's against us. When we were segregated, we knew who the enemy was. We knew who would hang you up on a tree. But now, these days, we don't know who those people are that would quickly put on that mask. You know what I'm saying? So being here in the country, I feel like there is some safety in numbers because it's smaller. But then again, that doesn't mean anything at all, because we have seen, you know, acts of racism recently here in the country. So as a woman, yes, we are on guard. And yes, I do keep my piece under my seat when I'm driving out of town. And I mean, these certain things that usually we have freedoms and we're comfortable to a certain extent. I feel like I'm more on guard nowadays.
I'm just sitting here reflecting up on the questions and all the responses. And I know we're Black women here, and we sit at an intersection of where we come from Blackness, but we're also women. And I would feel remiss if I didn't also mention that as a woman, we also have to deal with we've been seeing so many stories about sexual assault, rape, and so many stories about that and how women have been victimized too. And so when asked about the concept of do you feel safe, I also consider that coming from the position as a woman. And we've heard so many stories about how women have gotten killed by their abusers and stuff. I also consider that. So just like y'all have mentioned, like having that extra layer of being conscious about your surroundings, of being conscious about who you're with, who you're around. It's twofold. It's not just coming from a place of I'm a Black person, but also I'm a woman too in this world, and I have to navigate it in a certain way in order to ensure my safety. So that's just something that I thought about as we were discussing that.
Kat, thank you for saying that because you made me think of something else. I just want to shine a light on for being a woman and a Black woman. Like Black women in America are 3 times more likely to be victims of maternal mortality. So having fatal births in our country, and I think this is a good time to shine a light on that because as Black women, sometimes our voices are faded, even in healthcare. So even when you're talking to healthcare providers about what you need or what you're going through, our pain is not oftentimes is not seen as real to those providers, and sometimes that can be fatal. So speaking of safety as being a Black woman in America today, that's also something that you have to keep in mind when you go to the hospital to have your child, that you have to think about your life in a way that's different from anybody else who's having a baby, because your voice and your pain is not perceived the same as a white female counterpart.
Jessica, it's funny that you actually brought that up. I saw something the other day and I was actually considering where a person was like, anything when it comes to the health field, they're a general practitioner, OB-GYN, dentist, they want them all to be people of color, particularly Black women of color if possible. Because right now, like me, I don't have any children and I do want to have children, but in my mind, because I'm hearing so much, I'm like, if I have one healthy child, I think I probably will be good. Because I know even in these last couple of days, there's been a lot of postings of that are, like there's a lady, I believe she's a YouTuber, pregnant, and literally, chronicled her entire pregnancy this entire time, young lady, and she ended up losing her child. And even when Serena Williams was speaking how she almost died with, it's just, we just have to, I like the fact that we as Black women tend to be very vocal, but you do at times, I can't imagine what it feels like to you what's going on in my body and then that be disregarded because I'm the medical professional and I know what you need. So I'm glad that just that, and Catherine, I'm glad you mentioned also about the even that I'm the type of person, I tend to not go out whenever it's dark at night by myself, just because you're always hearing about people, getting snatched, things of that nature. And so it's just, we have to at all times be cautious and, in the know of our surroundings. Many times I just feel the safest inside the walls of my home. So that's where I just tend to stay. I can, as much as I can help it.
I did want, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you go.
I did want to piggyback off just something, because I don't know, or I don't think some women know about this, but I had a friend one time who was, she went to the doctor and she was telling the doctor about some stuff that was going on, and the doctor really wasn't trying to listen to her. And I can't remember what happened, but she asked them to notate in the file that the doctor was refusing to basically, I guess, take or understand, or I can't remember the terminology, but basically notate in her medical records for that visit that the doctor really wasn't listening to what she was telling was wrong and was just trying not to hear what she had to say. And the moment that she said, okay, I want you to notate this in my file, that way I have it on record, doctor came back And it was just like a whole 180, like, okay, yeah, I'm listening to you now. Like, we can go ahead and do this. We can go ahead and do that. And just that moment, I didn't even know you could do that. And so I was like, well, if I don't know this, I know there's probably some other people that don't know it. But that just kind of plays back onto just becoming more vocal about, you know, anything that's going on in your life. Like, you know your body better than anybody. So it's like, I noticed that too, if I'm going to the doctor and I'm telling them X and Y and they're not listening, I'm ready to just say like, okay, well, can you note that in my file, at least that I told you? So if something does happen and I have to sue you or something happens, like I can go back to this office visit and we can clearly see that, okay, I told you I had this problem and you weren't taking me seriously. And then it led to a bigger thing. So just kind of going back to like women being vocal and speaking up in general in all areas.
That's really good. I think as women, as Black people in general, we have, and it's been a lot of studies on this, we have distrust, and rightfully so, the healthcare providers because of the things and the mistreatments that we've had to go through. A lot of the stuff that we know about the human body and medicine today is because they use Black people against their will to do these studies. And just as women, as Black women, especially if you're a pregnant woman, always remember that you can advocate for yourself, that healthcare providers have to earn your trust. It's not given. And you know, you have to do your own research, and there's other ways, other avenues that you can go through to, you know, have a baby. We're talking about maternal mortality, but even still, we just have to remember to advocate for ourselves and to always get second opinions, just for our own safety and the safety of our children.
That's perfect. Jessica, you actually stole one of the questions that I wanted to ask you guys. I wrote down maternal mortality to discuss with you guys, but I should have known if anybody was gonna steal it, it would be you, as that's your area of expertise there. Listening to that and having this understanding that women can or Black women are supposed to handle and hold pain better than any other group, right? And some of you guys were talking about how you are perceived and to be stronger than whatever, or the angry Black woman, I think is the term that was used, right? And so in education, there's this big push for this disproportionate discipline that happens, and Black kids are always suspended, and specifically like Black boys are always suspended higher. But like current research that's really being produced will show that Black women, Black female students are actually at a higher risk of being suspended and expelled from school, and these have damaging effects, right? And so somewhere in the southern region, or really in the southern region, right, their Black girls are 6 times more likely to be suspended than any other group. In the North, where people don't think that racism exists, it's actually 10 times higher for them there, right? And so I just want to ask you guys, like, what contributes to that, and how do we combat that?
I think I'll take a stab at this one because this is something that I'm definitely studying in school, school to prison pipeline type things. And honestly, I think it all comes from like just having people who don't acknowledge the whole child, like from a holistic view, just seeing that the child is acting in ways that's against the norms. But then they don't ask themselves, why is that child acting this way? What's happening with that child, or what's going on with them? Like, you don't know their home life. You only see them during the school hours, and you only see how they interact with other children or how they interact with you. You're not asking the questions are, is this child being fed? Is this child being neglected? Is this child living with an abuser? Is this child living in an unsafe community where it's community violence? You don't ask the real questions about what's happening with this child in their homes, in their communities. And because of that, you're not seeing the whole child. And because of that, you're going to automatically label them as a bad child. You're going to automatically give them the discipline referral. You're going to automatically send them to alternative schools and stuff, because you're not actually acknowledging the child as a whole. And that's such a disservice to the children that that are within our communities. And it hurts to see, it hurts to witness. And I just want so much more for Black children because they have to go through so much and they have to see so much. They have to grow older than they actually are. They're not allowed to be children because so many people label them. They see so many things in life, and it just hurts to see. And I just want more for Black children. So
to go along, piggyback on what Catherine said, I've been in education since 2007. I'm not in the classroom now, but I work with new and aspiring teachers. And we tell them that one of the biggest things for teachers, any teacher, to be successful with your students, be able to connect with your students, is about having relationships. And the last school that I taught in was in a very impoverished area here in Houston. And many of those students acted the way they acted, and it was a direct reflection of their home life, where it was extremely rough. You would see students that would fight each other like grown people, but honestly, they would see grown people fighting in that, community. And many times, like you mentioned, these educators that we have, many of them don't try to connect, figure out, has this child eaten today? Is this child able to be a child at school? Obviously, is this child able to be a child at home? Because many times they have to be an adult because mom or whomever has, they're working. So I have to be big sister, big brother, and take care of siblings. And so when I come to school, I do want to act out because that's the only time I can be a child. And a lot of times people, unfortunately, many people, we are in an area for education where if I have a degree and I am not able to find a job in my field, I can always go become a teacher because I have a bachelor's degree. And so sometimes you have people go into the field because depending on where you are, education, it does pay well, but everybody is not built to be a teacher. But many times we have people in the space that are educators. And so most of the teachers who are able to connect with their students and they don't have problems, because some students may act out with certain teachers, but then for others, they're a complete angel. Never a problem, never an issue, because the teacher has taken time to connect with that student on a personal level. And it doesn't have to be very deep. It may just be having some type of interest in something that they do. But the teacher who is never going to try to with them, as soon as you act up, I don't get another chance, you go and you count me off and you're ready to, write me up, send me to the principal's office and things of that nature. Why would I come back to your classroom and behave a certain way? Because right now I feel like you don't care. And it happens too many times, and a lot of schools don't take the, my last school had a program where we specifically, before school started, talking able to connect with students before they even walk in the classroom, establishing that relationship. And unfortunately, at times that's not happening. And I think if we can get that more in the education space, then we can see some of these prison to pipeline and things of that nature just kind of, decrease. But until we get to that point, that's kind of where we're going to be.
I think this is a good time to talk about defunding the police and what doing that could do for the education system. So if you could take some of those funds away from police departments who are not doing their jobs or doing positive things with the money and the funding that they're getting from taxpayers, you can put more money into education, and we could be able to hire more social workers and school psychologists for these children, because a lot of times in these schools, they don't have, we had a counselor. We didn't have a psychologist in my school. We didn't have a social worker at my school where I grew up at. And I know a lot of children who could benefit from those things, because teachers do have a lot on their plates. And I think it is, I'm not sure, I'm not an educator, but I think they should be able to recognize when these things are going on with children. But they have to stay in the classroom and teach the children. So they should have people and resources that they can reach out to so that these children can get the help that they need. And so we can debunk some of those stereotypes, saying that, just little black girls are just hard and they can take it. And, it's just another black child going to alternative school. If we had more avenues so we can really get to know these children and what they're going through, then I think that we could decrease some of those statistics of having those high suspension rates for black children.
I think the biggest thing for me is people are so quick to put like a label on the child, like, oh, they have ADD or they have ADHD or they're just this or they're just that. And a couple years ago, I used to work for Social Security for like 4 or 5 years. And I used to have some of my friends that would ask me different questions about just like how they can get kids on the disability benefits, and I would just kind of listen to what they were telling me, and I'm just like, there's nothing wrong like with your kid. They're a kid. Like, maybe you should look at the reasons why they're acting up in the classroom, like how you were saying, Catherine, like what's going on at home, like why are they acting out at school? Are they not allowed to be a kid at home, or do you have relationship issues with your spouse or significant other, or you know, things like that? And so that's my biggest deal. I know like some kids do have certain diagnoses, but I just feel like a lot of people, especially like K through 12, they're just so quick to be like, oh, they have this, we'll just give them that, and then they're taking all these medications and all this other stuff, and that's just not good. It to me, in my opinion, but just the labeling in general, because everybody doesn't have a diagnosis. Like some people, you just need to sit down, have a conversation with them, and just like see what's going on.
And I'm not an educator either, but I'll speak on the side of the moms, because I'm a mom of four. And I think that a lot of times, I agree with you. Definitely. I went through that with my oldest son, where I felt like they were just trying to write him off as having this disability, or having this learning disability, or this mood disorder. And for a long time, I bucked against that. And I didn't want him to be on medication. I didn't want him to be labeled. But in the end, he did have some of those certain diagnoses. But as Black girls growing up, and I grew up in the heart of Oak Cliff in the 90s, which was really rough. It was nothing to see fights in the hallway, fights after school. And we were pretty much a product of our environment. Some nights you go home, you don't know if you're gonna have something to eat. You living in the projects, you on the playground, just trying to play, get on the swing, and shots ring out. So my sister, who is an educator and has been for 7 years, I always go to her, as well as Jeremy. I know a lot of other educators, but I always go to them to seek certain type of guidance when it comes to the school system. And one thing my sister says that always sticks with me, that I pray that all educators grasp, is a lot of times she'll vent to me on certain things, because she teaches in Lancaster, in Dallas County. And she'll say that I have to decide, you know, who am I dealing with? What student is this am I dealing with? You know, some of my babies go home and they have to be, like one of the other sisters said, they have to be the parents. Nobody's there. Mom is at work and they have to play, you know, big brother / dad, fixing food. They don't have an opportunity to be a kid. And then you have those other babies who they do have certain disorders and mood disorders and things like that. So one thing that she always says is that I have to decide, who am I dealing with, you know, because kids go through too. And just like a teacher have a bad day, a kid can have a bad day. So I think to fix some of those things is that we have to get proactive with our school boards and things. We have to start voting as far as that goes. We need to know who's over making these decisions for our kids at school, and definitely get involved with the school districts.
Those are really some solid points that you guys brought up. I'm an educator, as most of you already know anyway. So I see and deal with those different issues on a day-to-day. But Heaven, you just brought up the act of voting, right? And so what does voting need to look like for us? What do we need to advocate for? Do we need to have a unified plan? Which I know the answer is probably yes from you guys, but how do we address voting in our community?
I think for me, I wish people, of course, keep saying vote, but then it's like, okay, you have to give people the information, because some people, they don't even know what's out there, what they're voting for. So it's one thing to sit there and be like, oh, y'all need to get out there and vote. And it's like, okay, but what exactly are you even saying we need to get out and vote for? Like, present the people. And I understand like they should go out and do it themselves, but some people, they either don't know how to go out and see what's on the ballot and what represents what. But I don't think there's one. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever seen something that just breaks down everything. Like, these are the things that are out there, and simplifying it so that everybody can have an understanding of it, because there are like some older people or some people who don't have as high of education, but they can vote and they may not be able to understand and interpret the things. But I guess that's the thing for me, like, don't just sit out here and say, y'all need to get out there and vote. It's like, okay, well, present the people with the options of what's available to them for these elections that we're having, and then let them have a better and informed decision.
I agree with that because I think everybody just focuses on, oh, well, we need to vote in November. But we have elections throughout the year, actually have elections coming up in Texas. On the election day is Tuesday. And so, like you mentioned, a lot of times people are not informed. And a lot of times people don't know when they need to. I had someone that I spoke to when we were actually at the George Floyd viewing, and she thought that she had to register to vote every year. And we just let her know, well, no, if you've already registered, you're registered. But she honestly had no clue. So we do need to make sure that we are educating people as much as possible and not saying, just vote Democrat, just straight Democrat, if that's, your preference. You can tell someone that, but then they're just going in and clicking. And yes, I'm glad you're going to vote, but you need to know what it is you're voting for. Also with voting for, these, House of these representatives and these senators and things of that nature. A lot of times those are the people who are really the ones that are, being of influence where we are on, even in your local elections. Me, unfortunately, where I live, I vote for the mayor, but I'm still, because of the city limits, but I'm still advocating for you all that can vote. Please go pick the person that's going to run our city, because a lot of times people just don't know. So I really want us to be able to, like you said, educate people more, but also make sure they know that it's not just an election every 4 years for the president. All of these other positions that are much, not to say not of as much, they're actually of probably more significance, but not as big of a position as the president.
Just to speak on what Ashley was just speaking on, I think right now in the times of COVID has shown us how important local and state level elections are. Just seeing how these politicians are, of course, in the South, a lot of them are like just running with the president and just agreeing with everything the president is saying. You don't need a mask mandate. You don't need to do this. You don't need to. Let's get back to business. Let's get back to the economy. And sure, the economy is important, but also people being alive is important as well. People actually being healthy is important. Like, this is a public health crisis. Like, and if anything has shown me, like, local level elections and state level elections have been important, is this pandemic. So.
And I want to say one thing, just to piggyback on that, one thing that where people need to recognize, for example, I'm here in Houston. Our mayor has been wanting us to have, mask mandated for the longest. And the governor said no. So your local official is trying to keep you all safe and mandate masks, but your governor said no. So then about 3 weeks later, then the governor says, okay, now the entire state is required to wear a mask. Well, by now the damage is done. And even like with Keisha Lance Bottom, she's trying to mandate in Atlanta that they wear masks. But the governor supersedes what she says. And so, okay, your mayor is trying to, be in your best interest. But now the governor, who was elected as well, is able to supersede what she says. So just again, like we're saying, every local, state, all of those elections, they matter, because at the end of the day, sometimes there aren't people that have our best interests at heart, but they're the ones that can make these for us. And that's just what we have to deal with.
I live in Atlanta, Ashley, so I'm very aware of what you're talking about. Passionate about it as well. But I know that a friend shared with me called Branch Politics that kind of laid out the local elections for Atlanta. And I was able to, because I'm not originally from Atlanta, so I don't know these people, but through the app, I was able to research those people and their platforms, and I was able to make a more informed
Jessica, I don't know if you can hear me, but
I was say to whoever is watching, if, you know, people are telling you to vote and you don't know how to vote or who to vote, or you're just voting for Democrats, to, you know, research and find those outlets that kind of lay out who the candidates are so that you can make an informed decision. Right, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Your service is kind of cutting in and out a little bit. I'll just give you that. Like, we heard probably about 35% of the things you said then. I know she coming right back. But in the wake of that, I'll ask you guys though, since there is an apparent problem within the community of us voting, but to our point, do we trust the system, right? Are we not voting because we don't trust it, or are we not voting simply on the fact that we don't understand everything that's going on? Or what do you think the perspectives are when it comes to voting within our community?
I think it's a mix of both of those. I think we saw in the last presidential election that we pushed a lot of people to get out and vote, and it didn't quite go in our favor. When I say that, we know that Hillary won the popular vote, but she still didn't win the presidential election. So trying to explain that to millennials like us, who are just really getting old enough to understand and to be engaged in the politics, and the generation behind us, trying to explain those politics to them and express to them how important voting is, and them seeing the actual evidence that worked against them in the last election. I don't think we trust the system. I think that we try, like, we have hope in the system that they would do what's best for us, but we see it even during this pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement, that they don't really have our best interest at heart. And I think that is the biggest barrier of trying to educate people and encourage people to get out and vote, even on the local levels. Because if you're involved in your local communities, you know whether or not your local officials have your best interest at heart. And sometimes, even though the local officials, as we can see, like the mayors are mandating masks, but as we go up on the chain, those people don't care. They have different interests. So I think that clash of, like, yes, I see that these little, I don't want to call them little people, but they're local and they care about us. But as you move up the chain, we see that those people have a different agenda. So I think the barrier is, like, we can educate and we can encourage people to go vote, but they don't have the physical evidence that these people are caring about me and my voice and the things that I care about, because a lot of the times they don't go through the things that we go through in our local communities. So we know that they don't really have an understanding because they haven't experienced it. So I think that it's a mixture of both of them. Like, we can't just trust the system because we haven't seen much evidence that the system is actually working for us.
Good. So I'm going to throw these 4 words at you, and I want you to tell me your reaction to them and often your response, right? And so those words are Black on Black crime.
I'll go with this one. So usually people bring up Black on Black crime in order to combat people who say things such as Black Lives Matter, but actually crime happens at a proximity. Crime happens because of opportunity. It doesn't matter. It's not necessarily surrounding the fact that, oh, I'm a Black person, I can take from another Black person. It's because we're in a close proximity. It's because I have the opportunity to take advantage of the situation. It's not just a Black on Black thing. And I think it's so disheartening to always see so many complaints of, oh, what about Black on Black crime? But other races commit crimes against their own race as well. So it's just not a Black thing. It's a human thing. It's because people have the opportunity to take advantage of the situation. It's not just a Black on Black thing. And it's so frustrating to always hear that argument, because it's always a way of downing the Black Lives Matter movement. It's always a way of downing people who advocate against police brutality. it's just disheartening to always hear. So crime happens at a proximity and because of the opportunity.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah. No, you go ahead, Jessica.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. But the first thing, I was basically talking to myself earlier. But anyway, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear Black on Black crime is a myth. Like, it's not true and we should stop saying it. I don't know if I remember the numbers right, but I just remember seeing the statistics, and it was like maybe like 94% of Black crimes, Black crimes are against Black people, but for white people, it's basically the same, like in the high 80s. So it's a myth, and it was started to kind of, like Kat was saying, to get our attention off of the problems that are actually at hand. And I think that crimes happen because of a lack of resources. And if you lack resources in your community, where majority of the people in your community are Black, you commit crimes to Black people. And, the same for white people and any other people. So the first thing that comes to my mind is a myth, and I wish that we could stop saying it.
I hate the fact that a lot of, like, I've heard that come up a lot lately in the midst of all of this that's going on with the police killing Black people. Well, and it's just like, you can't justify police killing Black people because Black people kill Black people, because white people kill white people, and vice versa. I mean, with like you say, with the proximity, most times when you have situations, I don't know of people that are just randomly killing strangers. They're typically, when the instances happen, is someone that they know, someone that they're close to. So Jessica, I agree with you. It's just, I feel like the topic comes up when they're trying to justify things like these police killings, and it's like, no, it's wrong regardless. And again, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of white on white crime. We never hear about that. But also we know there's plenty of instances where, when it's something dealing with Black people, we always hear it. Like if something happens to a Breonna Taylor or whomever, a George Floyd, then our past is digged up and now they want to talk about that. But that always happens with our side and not the other side. So, but again, I'm like you, it's a myth. It happens across the board with multiple races. They just make sure they bring emphasis to us.
All right, I was saying that wait time as an educator, I can wait all day on y'all. But I'm gonna bring it up just because it's important, and I think you guys deal with this as Black women more than Black men. It's just a conversation that we have, but it's not really that in depth. But for you guys, how does colorism affect y'all? How do you deal with colorism? I see some expressions right there, so that means that's a hot topic. But I think it's very important. So yeah, let me be quiet. Colorism, go.
I feel like you would be surprised the random and off the wall things that I feel like Black women hear, whether that's just in daily lives at work. Like I've had people at work that'll just be like, "Oh, Jacoby, you're Black, but you're not Black," and I'm just like, I mean, last time I checked, I was a Black woman, and so it's like, I feel like it's big in the Black community as well as outside, just because some people may be more comfortable with certain shades of Black or brown people than they are with other people. And it's the same thing, like within my own family members, within my own family, like I've had people say stuff to me just because like I'm a lighter shade, and it's just like, I can't help how I came out. I cannot help genetics. Like, I'm still a Black person, and this is just the color that I've been all my life. I get a little bit dark in the summertime, but it's like as soon as the wintertime comes, I'm gonna get right back light. So I just the comments themselves, I just have to catch myself. And it's like, I'm not even, sometimes it's like, how you have to pick your battles. It's like, it's not even worth it because I don't even want to get upset. But sometimes I will say so, but I don't know. I guess I've just been conditioned over the years to just be like, you know what? Some of these battles, I'm just not even in the mood to fight.
Well, I'll speak for colorism. Usually, I guess mainly we see it with, the lighter complected Black female versus the darker complected Black female. And how the lighter complected are shown, more favoritism, more privilege over the darker complected female. And I say it's weird because in my immediate family, my mom, my dad, my sisters, I'm the darkest complected, and I don't feel like I'm, a dark skinned woman. I think I'm, medium brown, but I'm darker. I'm the darkest one in my immediate family, and I was teased because of that as a child. You know what I'm saying? They almost make you feel like the black sheep. And it took me a minute to understand that this is generational. I mean, just I can't even find the word that I'm looking for, but I had to understand it's not them. This is not a concept that we as Black people came up with. You know what I'm saying? This is a concept that I believe white people came up with, people of the other race came up with, because we were looked upon. If you were anything that was considered Black or a Negro was considered bad. So I feel like we got that concept from them, because, white people back in the day, if they were poor, at least they weren't Black, So I think that's something we adopted from them, to where we feel like if I'm darker complected, then I'm the lesser of, everyone else. So we see that in mainstream with Beyonce. People argue that if she was a darker skinned woman, she wouldn't have the fame that she has. And I think that goes twofold, I don't think it's a fair concept, but we definitely see that a lot, especially with women.
From a historical perspective, Kevin, I have to agree with you. This isn't a concept that Black people originated. It definitely goes back to times of slavery, where there were house Negroes and field Negroes. The lighter skinned people were working in the house and were being maids and whatnot. And then the field Negroes, they were out in the fields and doing a lot of the hard work, or the laborious work and stuff. And so, this isn't a concept that we came up with. It's something but it is something that has perpetuated within our society, even from those slavery times until now. I know, being a dark-skinned woman, it took me a lot of work on myself internally to see my value, to see my worth, to see that I am beautiful. It took me a lot of my life to realize, hey, yeah, you are a Black woman, you are good, you are whole, you are acceptable. Forget the society's norms, you are beautiful. It has taken me a lot of work to get to there. But even with all that work, even with accepting myself now, it's always sometimes those constant reminders within the world that you are dark skinned. It's always those constant reminders that of what you look like and stuff. I know, just speak on recently, I have been trying to find ways to get involved within the activism community here in Memphis. And it was just learning that my dark skin was kind of a drawback for me, because I am not lighter skin complected, and with light skin, it seems less threatening to police. It seems less threatening to the people around him. And so just because I am darker skinned, I'm not able to work in avenues to protect people, because my dark skin is weaponized. My dark skin is threatening to people. And it was just so mind blowing to me just to understand, just because I am darker skinned, people might think I'm more aggressive. People might think I'm more militant. So it's just an ongoing process of accepting your skin, accepting what you look like, accepting that you are beautiful and that you are worth the love, even if you are dark skinned, even if you are light. So that's been an ongoing journey, and that you have to work towards.
Kat, I think that's a journey for me as well. Being dark skinned is something I always struggled with growing up. I have a twin sister who's a couple shades lighter than me, so I was always the dark one. I was always compared by my complexion. When we got of age and my mom started dressing us alike but different colors, I would always have to wear the darker colors, and she would get the brighter colors, just and I don't think, and she didn't do it on purpose, but those are the things that you remember as a child, and they kind of stick with you. And even now, I love myself. I love my complexion, but it has been a process, like you said, it's still my pet peeve to this day, you know, for someone to say you're beautiful for a dark-skinned girl, you know, you fine chocolate and all of that. And it's like, why can't I just be fine? Why I gotta be fine in chocolate, you know? So I just hate being reminded of my complexion as if that's the only thing that you see when you see me. And so in the Black community, you know, we always compare women, especially for, you know, the shade of brown that they are. And I wish we could move past it, but like Catherine and Heaven said, it is, you know, it has historical context, and it didn't start within our community, but I think you keep it going, whether we want to say it or not, we definitely keep it going. But as a dark-skinned female, it has been hard to, you know, love myself and to see myself as beautiful because of colorism.
I'm a 4-word guy, it seems like, but another 4 words just came to my mind. But then I also attach it to a topic that we need to discuss. So, you know, don't touch my hair, right? What is texturism, and diving into that, because I know that's very important to Black women, right? And it's a battle. It becomes something that can hurt you in a lot of different ways. And so just your perspective about the whole "don't touch my hair" movement, as well as texturism, what you guys got there.
So for me, don't touch my hair is like, period. Like, I'm very open. I'm a very open person, but it's disrespectful. I mean, that's just bottom line, because when it comes from, like, there are a lot of people who look like us who would, you know, it's still disrespectful that way. But when it comes from the other side, it feels like I'm losing the control over myself when you can just walk up to me and touch me in that manner because you're fascinated, or whatever the case may be. And so I'm always, I guess I come off as the angry Black woman when it happens, and they're so offended, but I'm like, I can't walk into your personal space and touch anything of yours without you rebutting or being afraid, or even wanting to call the police on me. So don't disrespect me. I feel like it's very disrespectful. When it comes to texturism, I have gone back and forth to being natural for a long time. When I first went to college, I tried, and I would see other girls whose hair was more curly and easier to manage. And so I felt like my hair was just nappy. Like, and there was always a derogatory term to the term nappy, because I didn't have the really curly, silky hair. And even in my own community, like even in my own family, like you're natural and you do your hair naturally, and they're like, you're not gonna do your hair today? No, this is my hair today, you know, like, so that has been a struggle personally for me, because like a lot of people say that, you know, why are you going natural? Like, this is how my hair grows out of my head. And I think it's very derogatory to try to make me fit into something that isn't really me. Like the straight hair, I commend people, you know, I'm not ever offended or mad at you because you decided to get a perm, but don't be offended with me because that's not what, you know, I want to do with my hair. Like, because that's not what we originally come from. And so it has always been a struggle, because for a long time, even when you like first go natural and you try to watch the YouTube videos on like how to do your hair, and like you type in like 4C, like this is my hair, and you get this 3A, 3B tutorial, and you think your hair gonna come out like that because you're new and nobody ever, and it doesn't. And so you're discouraged, like, well, maybe my hair is not meant to be natural, or maybe I should go back to doing something else. So don't touch my hair is disrespectful in any sense, in any way. And I think just for texturism teaching, like for education for people coming up after us, like teaching them, like, you know, your hair is different. It's not going to look like theirs, like, but you have to embrace what your hair texture is. And as long as you love your own hair, give it that TLC, it's going to flourish like it's supposed to.
I want to hop in. Don't touch my hair because I don't want you to touch me, period. My hair is part of my body. It grows from my scalp. Do not touch it, period. Don't. And people it would amaze you. I don't know if, Jeremy, you have locks. I don't know if anybody would have the audacity to do that, but people will literally put their hands in your hair and then start to have a conversation. No, do not touch me. That includes my hair. And for me, I think also with the whole, like being natural, your hair is in its natural state. Of course, you can do things to manipulate it. Black people are not born with super straight hair typically. I mean, some are, but there's a way. And if you decide to put a relaxer, because I've been natural for several years, but I've had a relaxer more years than me being natural as of right now. But as long as your hair is healthy and you're happy with it, let me be happy with mine, as it is. I've never been able to say I'm a 4C or anything, because of course you have all different textures all over your head. So I don't try to typecast it. I just say my hair is dope. Whatever it is, it's just that. All of the letters and the numbers, that's just what it is. But I actually have probably experienced more when it comes to texturism compared to colorism, for me personally. And it's just a matter of you do you, happy with what you have, and let me be happy with mine. And if I don't want you to touch my hair, basically just take it as don't touch me, because it's part of me. Even if it was a wig, it's mine. Don't touch it. Just leave it alone. Just, keep your hands to yourself. And just, I understand that we're magical. I understand that our hair does stuff that many people's hair cannot do. And people spend a lot of money on a lot of things to be able to get something similar to what we have, because theirs will not do it. And it's okay. You do that. But just don't touch my hair. And that's period.
I think we all just like, yeah, just don't touch my hair. Don't touch me. Just don't. Because for me, I think texturism, colorism, sometimes people assume that, oh, if you're light skinned, you're automatically going to have a certain type of texture. And that was not the case for me at all. I remember when I was thinking about going back natural, like even when I was in high school, I used to admire like the really soft and curly hair, because that was like, that's what everybody wanted. And then I kind of got to college and I started to see how my hair was, and I went through a little transition phase of not really liking my curls, but then I was just like, this is how your curls are coming out of your hair. And I love every part of my hair. Like I say, my hair is strong. It's coarse. I done broke a couple combs and rubber bands, but it's strong. It's strong-willed. It has a mind of its own. I've had a lot of different styles. I was, before I got my hair locked up, I was rocking a big Angela Davis fro, and I remember everybody used to want to touch it. And I'm kind of like you, like I've had people just walk up behind me and just put their hands in my hair, and before I can even catch myself, I'm like, I will literally break your hand if you touch like, you just don't do that. And it just kind of reminds me, like, especially when white people do it, it's like you really don't have any type of sense of restraint or any boundaries, because you think you can just walk up to someone and put your hand in their hair and just not even think that it's an issue. And I guess for me, I feel like the colorism, the texturism, it has just continued to like divide us as people, because it's like, oh, you light skin, or you dark skin, or you got nappy hair, or you got thick good hair, or you went to this school. Or sometimes I feel like people make it seem like you're not black enough because you don't have natural hair, or you didn't go to a HBCU, or you did this or you did this. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, we all black. When white people look at us, they don't know that we went to this school, or they don't know the difference between hair textures or light skin and dark skin. Like, most of them are just seeing you're a black person. You may be a little bit more comfortable with somebody because they're a lighter shade, but it's like you still black at the end of the day. I'm sorry, Heaven. I didn't mean to. I think we unmuted at the same
No,
time.
you're fine. You're fine. I just wanted to speak to the fact that the texturism, my mom, I've been natural for probably about maybe 7 years now. And when I first made the decision, my mom, you have to understand, she has beautiful hair. She can wash it and just go. I mean, that missed me. I didn't get that. It's a little bit more Africa in the center of my head. So I would have to do too much, to manipulate it for it to be straight. And I've always been on the front lines, like in customer service. And I did. I had that mindset that I needed to have a fresh face and my hair needed to be straight. And, so I would just kill my hair because I was, overheating, trying to straighten it every day. And so when I first made the decision, my mom was like, "What's wrong with you? Why you want to walk around nappy headed?" Like, I got so much, I mean, just, negative comments on finally going natural. And for the longest, I would, start wearing my natural styles and my heat protected styles and things. And she would be like, I mean, just roll her eyes every time she would see me. So I think a lot of that, it has been ingrained from us having this, I don't know, this idea of what beauty is. We have to have the long, straight hair. Whereas a lot of women, I put a wig on now just for a protective style, but my crown underneath is, still nappy as it want to be. So I don't know, us as women, you expect those, especially around you, to be supportive and be like, yes, come on, let's get rid of that creamy crack and let's go back to the roots. But I got a lot of backlash when I first went natural, because people were like, what happened to the long straight hair? Where is that? And I'm like, I'm still me, whether I have braids or whether I have my afro or a natural style, I'm still heaven. So it's an issue for us, definitely.
Just speaking about don't touch my hair, texturism, I think as a lot of Black women are going back to being natural and are embracing these styles, I think it's important that we tell each other that this is a journey of love. This is a journey of embracing your hair, embracing what comes out of your scalp and stuff. And so I believe that these conversations have to keep going on within, especially in the Black woman community as a whole. We have to just teach people just to love our natural selves as we're going back to being natural haired. But also something that we should take another step further is telling young Black girls that they have nice, beautiful hair as well. When you see a little Black girl out in public with the natural hairstyles, telling her, hey, I love your hair, letting her know it, ingraining that into the next generation so they don't have to grow up with those same thoughts around texturism, growing up with the same thoughts that my hair isn't good enough, my hair isn't pretty enough. Just taking that step further and just letting them know, like, hey, you're pretty, you look good, and just building their confidence up, even at a young age. It's gonna go so far if we could all collectively just reach out and encourage little Black girls in their beauty.
I think this is a great time to bring up texturism in the professional world. I have recently dealt with that, going into what it seems as to be corporate America. They have this expectation of what you should look like because you're presenting yourself at a higher level. And I think we have to work really hard to debunk that I have to wear straight, long hair in order to look professional. I have been struggling with that for the past 6 months. Like, do I wear my braids to work? Do I just put on a wig to make myself look presentable? Can I wear my natural hair to work? And I hate the fact of feeling like I'm being rebellious when I want to wear my own hair in the professional world, because you're afraid of what people are going to say about you, that you don't, fit in, or that you won't do the job well because of what your hair looks like. So I have been working really hard to really instill in myself, I can do my job regardless of what my hair looks like. And it's not unkempt. I think that's what a lot of the times when you're in a professional world, that's what they want to say. Your hair looks unkempt. You don't look groomed. And so I have been fighting really hard, even with the people that are around me in my job, because I am in leadership, to really promote that. You can wear your own hair in this and still be professional. So I think that's important also as Black women in corporate America, or even in any type of profession where we're out and people are seeing us, to really know that you can wear your own hair and still be professional.
That's why I don't know if y'all realize that the Crown Act, it was the year anniversary of that just last week, where they basically passed law saying that you can't be discriminated against because of how your hair is. And whenever that was going about last week, they had the frames and everything, and you could put it all on social media. Because I want to say at that time, I think it was maybe 13 of the 50 states had passed the Crown Act, because how my hair looks does not go against or change my ability, my, I mean, I can still do my job. It's not going to dumb down my intelligence for my field because I have locks or because I wear my fro. And I actually can say that I am victim to whenever I would have job interviews, because I've been natural for almost 12 years. And in the past 12 years, there's been some time at a job interview and I did decide to go ahead and get it straightened or pull back into the bun, just, to be safe and like, let me not scare these employers that I'm hoping will give me a job. But once I get the job, boom, we're going right back to the twist out and be able to go from there. But it's important for us to be able to, I mean, again, the whole notion of, locks are, some people, locks are dirty. Some people may have dirty locks, but most people have very maintained and, kept hair. And again, it's just hair. It doesn't take away from, yes, Jeremy is one of those people. It doesn't take away from, you as a person because your hair looks a certain way. And I know being in education, we're grooming, those that are new teachers and becoming teachers. And this conversation always comes up, just like how the conversation comes up when they talk about tattoos and things of that nature. What does your appearance look like? And, how do you need to present yourself and things of that nature? And so we always feel as Black people, we have to be safe, but many times our hair is basically, it's part of our story. It's just, speaking on our personality and things of that nature. So, but I mean, it's just so much that we can do with it. And I think too, because we can do so much with it and many other races can't, they feel intimidated by it. So let's go ahead and make it an issue, make it a topic, and, try to, shut that down so that we can kind of, be dulled down to that basic, certain styles or whatnot. But I could talk about hair all day, so I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself.
I would say when Jacoby, go ahead. Okay. I would say when I hear "don't touch my hair," I think of I am not a project, I am not an experiment, I am not on display for you to pet me just because I'm different. And just like Ashley was saying, I think as Black women, we can be so versatile with our hair, and a lot of other women cannot. And, people are just inquisitive, but there's a way to ask questions and be curious and not be rude. So touching someone's hair is rude. You are petting them at that point without permission. I am not an animal. So no, you cannot do that. And just speaking on texturism and professionalism, I just started a job last week and they got these lemonade braids, and that's just what it's gonna be. I contemplated it, and I was the same. Thank you, Ashley. Ashley, I was the same way, thinking about straightening my hair or something, but no. And I know that the first thing that I looked at in the handbook for my job was hair. And I mean, that may be unique to Black women, but I had to look at that just to make sure that I wouldn't get in trouble for wearing braids or changing my hair. And that's one of the things that I do think about with jobs or even in school when I was in school, just being around people of other races. And as a Black woman, I changed my hair a lot. And I hate to get those questions when you come to work with the new hairdo and everybody, they want to comment on it. You don't have to. You can say it's cute and we can move on, but I don't want my hair to be the topic of the office every time I change it. So, and I know y'all can relate to that as well, but I'm like Ashley, I could talk about hair all day, but I'm gonna rest on it.
I think the biggest thing for me, like when I was out in the, like looking for jobs, I had I think all Black women do kind of contemplate like, well, how do I want to wear my hair? And then I got to thinking and I was like, these people are not about to pay for any of these hairstyles that I think they want me to have. So I'm gonna probably just wear the hair that I need to wear. So my signature was this afro, and it would be nice and neat, and it would look great. And so I remember my first job interview, I was just like, I just busted up in there, I had a nice suit on, and I got the job, and I was like, you know what? Didn't have any problems with that. So every job interview that I went on after that, no matter how my hair was, I always said I wanted to be in its natural state because I don't want people, for me, I didn't want to switch it up on them and then they'd be like, well, you had on this or your hair was like this when we met you and now you kind of switching it up on us and we don't know how we like that. But I also wanted to piggyback off of the workplace and talk about natural hair when it comes to relationships for me, because about 7 years ago, I was dating this guy, and I've been natural for about 6-7 years, and I had around the time I was deciding to transition back natural, and it was like I was already. It really is a journey. I don't think people really understand like going back natural is a journey. Like you're learning things about yourself that you didn't really realize that you realizing who you are basically, especially as a natural person. And I remember I was already kind of struggling with certain things going into my journey, and then the person that I was talking to at the time, it just was not a help at all. Like they were more for relaxed hair, permed hair, which is cool if that's what you like, but it was like I felt more and more pressure to keep my hair straight or look a certain way, and I was just like, I don't really want to be with somebody that's pressuring me to change who I am. Like, you're literally getting upset about how the hair is growing out of my hair. And it's like, you got to take that up with the Lord. Like, he chose my curl, he chose all of that stuff. And so it's like, if my hair is going to be an issue, then you're just not the person for me, because I can't manipulate it to fit how you want it to be. And I'm not going to keep damaging my hair to relax it and all that stuff just to make, I don't know, if you feel good about yourself. But I've always found that it's very interesting having natural hair when dating, because men have their preferences, and it's just like, I'm the same person, I just have, different hair. So that's just been interesting to me. I don't know if it's been interesting to you all.
I think I want to go there on this topic. Definitely think that natural hair is definitely polarizing in relationships. I know my senior year at Southern Miss is when I made the decision to go back natural. I had one of those moments, kind of like in the Malcolm X movie, where the perm burned my scalp, and I just realized I can't do it no more. I cannot literally burn myself anymore to have straight hair to fit the standards of society. And I just can't do it no more. And at that moment is when I started transitioning, and I eventually big chopped like a month before graduation. It was so polarizing to the men that I was dating at the time, because like, of course I was single at the time. And so it was just like, some of them was like, you cut all your hair off? Why would you do that? And to go from like literally straight permed hair to like just cutting it, big chopping it off. Some of them were like, wow, do you? And then some of them was like loving it. Some of them was like, let me rub your scalp and stuff. Like, let me see them curls, girl. I love what you did to your hair. So I feel like natural hair, the journey is all about learning how to love yourself through it, learning how to accept yourself. Some people are going to like it, some people are going to hate it, but long as you can live with yourself, long as you can love the hair that comes out of your scalp, that's what makes it all worthwhile.
Before another girl jumps in, let me mansplain something real quick, because Jacoby said, you're the same person with your hair just changed. I'm going to say that women are not the same with their hair. Don't change completely.
Don't get beat up, Jeremy.
No, I'm just saying, like, when you change your hair, you change personalities. Like, I literally know some of you that have different names for your wigs, and right? And if I'm going out of this, then I'm this type of person. But anyway, let me jump off this before I get in trouble.
Wow. I did want to say one more thing. The funny part about it is I don't realize people, and maybe it's just a common sense thing, and I know a lot of people don't have it, but it's like people don't realize that your hair grows back. Like, oh my gosh, you chopped your hair off. It's like, yes, that is correct. But the way that hair is set up, it's gonna grow back, and 9 times out of 10 it's gonna grow back fuller, it's gonna grow back thicker, it's gonna grow back healthier. And so I remember certain people will have something to say, like when I had my little Miss Seeley braids, and I was like, but it's like, if you can't be down with me when I have my Miss Seeley braids, like I don't want you to fool me when I'm in my Shaka Khan or when I'm in my Jill Scott. Like, it all grows back, and it grows back way better probably than it did when you were relaxed and natural. And that has just always been mind-boggling to me too. It's like, my hair's gonna grow back, like it's gonna probably be better than what it was. Like, it's just, give me a few years, but it's gonna come back.
Jacoby, you are preaching, because people tend to, I think, get infatuated and just attached to our hair that comes out of our scalp. And then when we change to our hair, they tend to want to have a problem with that or have something to say. Because I always had thick hair when it was real, so now it's even thicker being natural, but because it's gonna grow back. I don't know anybody's hair that does not grow. And if it's not growing, it's probably because your ends are split and you probably need to clip them and then it'll start back growing. But honestly, people really can, oh my God, I don't like your hair. I'm glad that you have that opinion, but I didn't ask you how you felt about my hair. As long as I'm fine and I'm happy with it and it's all good, nobody has bad hair. You may not like your hair, but your hair is not bad. You may have unhealthy hair, but there's no, good and bad hair. That's, a myth, another one. But people do tend to get infatuated with how your hair is. And guess what? If you don't like it, that's fine. As long as I do, we're good. So I'm glad you mentioned it, because I'm right now dealing with something with hair that I know may end up having people feeling, away. But it's like, if as long as I'm good, then it's all good. So.
I know my mic isn't muted, but I have a natural hair story. I know I came kind of late to the game. A lot of things happened. Jessica invited me, but I went natural in PT school. So I was transitioning when I came into PT school for maybe about like half a year, and then a year into PT school, I big chopped. And so this is like 2 years worth of like straight up like growth. And I would agree, my personality changed with being natural, and I became more confident. And it was really because like you, I had thick hair when it was relaxed, and I got compliments when it was relaxed, but when it was natural, it was like a whole different ball game. And to me, it just changed the frame. It was like, wow, like I'm really just embracing what's growing out of my head, and I'm getting the most compliments I've ever gotten on my hair in my life. Like, I'm not having to duck the rain or like stress out every time I work out, and people are like, oh, I love your hair. And it was, to me, an empowering thing, because it was like, no, you're not beautiful despite your blackness. You're not beautiful because you have these like features that are like whatever black. Not that I ever thought that. Like, I was always very pro-black. I had the kinkiest hair in my household. But it was just a very affirming thing to be like, no, like your African heritage, your blackness, the way that thick like bush of hair is growing out the top of your head is like why you're like so pretty to me. Hearing that from my culture, hearing that from other people's cultures, hearing that just across the board, it was like, oh wow, like I used to be the kind of person who like wouldn't leave the house without makeup on, and had to be like, real Atlanta girlish, and just being able to let that go and say like, oh no, like, I really woke up really beautiful. And that has been the reception with natural hair, has been great. And yeah, there are always going to be like old school people who are like, oh, you have such great hair, why don't you straighten it? Or you have such great hair, why don't you do XYZ with it? But I feel fortunate to be at this period in life where like we are all very much more conscious of our appearance and embracing our beauty, and being able to see it in other people and say, oh, I love your hair, and they love my hair. And it doesn't matter really what the curl pattern is or the style is, but just embracing ourselves. That has been a beautiful thing to me.
I felt like bringing up that hair was going to get you guys really rolling right there. This is probably like the only topic that I can jump in and relate to you guys in some form or fashion, because of hair discrimination that I have within myself. And personally, like Bree was talking about hair in the workplace, and she knows just from our conversations, and really a lot of you, just when I'm going into an interview, this summer has been like interview season for me. And it's like, I have to really try to decide, like, what do I need my hair to look like? Do I need to braid it? Do I need to tie it back, ponytail, bun? I don't know which way to go. But what I realized though, is that when it comes specifically to dreads, like, white people don't know the difference between when I have a retwist and when I don't. And I say that because I've asked like my coworkers at work, like, I have them look at my hair the day before I get it retwisted, and come back the next day and say, is anything different? Like, no, they don't see a difference, right? But we recognize that because it's our cultural thing within the community, right? But just hair and texturism is something that I think is very important for us to discuss. And the Crown Act, as Ashley brought up, is something that's very important. I'm gonna switch gears just a little bit, going back to something earlier we was talking about, discipline inside of the schools and also Black women feeling safe. So there's this term called adultification, right? In which adultification, if you've never heard of it, basically is how people romanticize and fantasize about young Black girls in their youth, but they are looked at as an adult, right? Because you guys tend to start forming and developing at an earlier age, and your innocence and vision is kind of lost a little bit. So have you guys ever experienced this adultification? Just talk about that from your perspective, please.
I haven't experienced it personally, but when I was a middle school teacher, I did notice, to me, I was like, these 6th through 8th graders don't look like what we look like when we were in 6th through 8th grade. Like, I can honestly see it. I know, I remember growing up and like in middle school having some like classmates that were like dating guys that were in high school. And some of them, I was like, they're a senior and you're an 8th grader. And it's like, I really don't think you should be talking to them. But, at times it was, I think that is something that we're seeing. I think it's more prevalent now, unfortunately, which is, not, something that we're, there's not nothing to be excited about. So I didn't experience it personally, but I do know that there are some people that just, I think people forget. It's like, okay, well, this child might look like they're, a certain age, but clearly if they're in a certain grade level, you should know that they're not of age and that's not a smart move. And it's unfortunate that you do see it happening more often. And then if you look at TV and things, I don't think our children are allowed to be kids as much as we were. So they're definitely a lot faster and experiencing a lot of things that they probably shouldn't be experiencing at such a young age. And that's something that's unfortunate. I really would like for kids to be able to be kids more so now than they have been as of lately.
I definitely have to agree with Ashley on that. I didn't personally experience it because I had a lot of family members who were overprotective of me because I was the baby or I was the girl of the family or whatever. But now that I'm an adult and I've worked in the mental health arena and I've worked in group home settings, I've seen younger girls who are coming up who have been sexually assaulted by grown men because they think that they look like an adult. And it's just heartbreaking to hear all the stories of how they've been abused, how they've been assaulted, how they've been raped by grown men and stuff who don't just let them be children, leave them alone. And I know it's a problem that plagues our community and stuff. So I think if we just try our best to get back to protecting little Black girls, protecting their innocence, protecting the fact that they're children and they're growing up. So just speaking out and like protecting them and taking care of them, that's what we can do to help protect the next generation as they're growing older, because they are dealing with things that we didn't deal with as we were younger. And they're dealing with voices from the media telling them that they need to act older than they are, and just protecting their innocence would try to help that situation.
I agree with Catherine because I did AAU track, and it's kind of a lot like AAU boy basketball track until you graduate. So you see like the people who come in from under you, several years under. And there was a girl, and I even remember used to be like, oh, she been grown so long. Like when she finally graduated, we're like, oh, you been grown. But her being grown, it was like for a very long time, like she would talk about very adult things. And then I remember her asking me one time, and I was a virgin at this time, 4 years, this girl, senior. And she asked me, what's the difference between rough sex and rape? And like she asked it very earnestly as a very young girl. But I realized that for a long time, she's been taking care of herself. For a long time, she's been like navigating the world. And I realized how many times we had looked at her like, oh, she's grown. She don't need nobody. Instead of being like, why is this a question you feel like you need to ask? Who is making you feel like you're so grown when you're in middle school? Like, you know, why are you so comfortable talking to boys that I would talk to being a senior and things like that, and like walking up to them like that? And I think more often than not, we turn the criticism in on each other and be like, oh, you fast, that's why, like, you wasn't raised right, blah, 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 and we just leave it there instead of seeing like, okay, maybe what's happened to her that she is asking these kind of questions so young, moving like she's many years older than she is. And it absolutely happens. It absolutely happens all the time. But we have to be, I guess, present enough as like the first line of defense, because like the first person they're probably gonna talk to is another Black woman. Period. Like than anybody outside the culture. So I 100% agree. We have to be vigilant about that.
I think, Jessica, you about to go?
I was, but you go ahead.
No, you go. It's for you.
I agree with what everybody is saying. I remember being in college and undergrad and being like in a room full of girls, and maybe a fourth of the girls, these are our Black girls, we're talking about being molested or sexually assaulted by family members and friends of families in their homes or in their aunt's home, you know, in family members' homes, because these things typically happen with people you know. It's not usually a random person. And I think as Black women, because we develop at an earlier age and we are more curvy just naturally, we are victimized in that way a lot of the times. And it goes back to the issue of safety and how we have to protect our young girls. I remember growing up, my mom never let me spend the night over someone's house. And I didn't understand why. She was just kind of strict all around, you know, so I thought my mom was just mean. But I look back on it now and I'm so thankful because, you know, the houses that I want to go to, these people had brothers and uncles and dads, and you just never know. And she protected me from so much. And it's so many other Black girls are not protected in that way. And Jordan, how you were saying how in our community we brush those girls aside and we put the blame on them and we call them fast or promiscuous. You never know why. I know there's a girl in my hometown that people would call fast at a very early age. And looking back on it, you know, she had boys over her house because her mom would leave her at home by herself when she was 10, 11, 12 years old. So I would call a boy over my house too, to feel protected, to have someone there. So you never know, you know, what these girls are going through. And like I said, it goes back to safety. We have to protect our young Black girls because we can be victimized in that way.
What I was about to say right before Jessica popped in, like, so going along with the adultification, right? I feel like Black women, and this is from my perspective, so please correct me and help me there. But you guys are hypersexualized more than anybody else, and that goes into your safety, your mental safety as well as your physical safety. How does our culture correct this hypersexuality?
I think for me, it's just, I don't want to say allyship, but it's just like people actually speaking up. Like I have guy friends now that become more vocal when they do see or they do hear certain things that are happening to women. And I think even when I was younger than I was now, when stuff happened, it was just kind of like hush, hush and quiet. But I think for me, having like those guy friends, especially those Black guy friends that are just like, hey, if something happens, like, let me know and I got you, or we gonna figure this out, and just having those conversations where they'll let me know and they helped other people. So I think like that's the first step, because I feel like a lot of people, I just feel like how we've all just kind of discussed, like people just expect us to just take so much, but you would kind of just be surprised. I know I've said this earlier, the amount of things that Black women hear, or say, like, I've been dang near followed home. I've had people just show up at my job. Like it's crazy. I remember one time I was leaving the school and I was at a red light and this guy was like trying to ask me for my number, and I just happened to have the windows down and I was like, no, I'm okay. And the guy he laughed at it, but he was like, I'm gonna follow you home to get your number. And I just remember looking at him like, first off, that's not even funny. And second off, I was just like, I'm gonna have to end up shooting this man, because if you follow me home, like, I'm gonna have to kill you, because that's just the only end result. So I guess just like having those, I guess, guy friends, or even other people who are there to help. Because like now, if I'm going somewhere, even if I go on like a date, like I'm texting like 2 or 3 people, this is what the guy looks like, this is where we're going, like, this is where I'll be from this time to this time. If I don't get back by this, even like being able to like share your location now. And it's crazy that you have to do that, but I think people think that we're being dramatic about it, but it's like there literally have been women who have gotten like killed or beat up just because they say like they're not interested in a person, or they don't want to give a person their number. And it's like, I've had people say, oh, y'all are just being extra. You could have just told a guy no. And it's like, well, they did. And now this person's dead, or she got punched in the face by this dude because he didn't know how to just take rejection. So just having people actually understand like no means no in all ways. Like just because somebody looks good and they fine or whatever, it doesn't mean that you have to over sexualize them. And we're not interested in everybody. If we go out to a club or to dinner, or we just having a girlfriend's night out, that's not an open invitation for people to just come over and just pounce. And I think a lot of guys see like, oh, it's a good looking group of women, let's just go over there and just see like, oh, she bad, let me see if I can get her number. It's like, no, we really just came out to just have a girls' night out. We just want to have a good time and not get hit on. And that'll turn into, are you being a B, or you think you too good? And it's just like, well, I am too good. And I said no, so I would just really like to enjoy the rest of my dinner with my girlfriends. So I guess just having like that understanding, for me anyway.
I think I want to hop in something real quick. Another thing, just to kind of go along with what Jacoby is saying, is making sure that we make women understand that we don't have to dress a certain way to be beautiful. I think right now you got a lot of these, some people, you got the bodycon dress, and you just have a lot of attire that, like Jessica mentioned, we just are naturally curvy. So certain clothes are going to look different on us compared to how they would look on others. And I know an example with me working with the teachers, we had a kind of a fashion do's and don'ts show. It was a fashion show, and one of them had on an outfit that she honestly thought was work appropriate. And it was very fitted, and she was curvy, and nobody said anything. And I just could not sit there and not say, and I was like, okay, I have to speak up. This is not a fashion do. When you're working with middle school, high schoolers, you're dealing with hormones and things of that nature. They do not need to be fantasizing and thinking about what their teeth looks like. That's a distraction. That's not allowing them to get that they need. And just being able to make sure that we do, make women feel confident in the fact you can, walk with a sweatsuit and still be as fine as whoever has on the tightest clothes right next to you. So just being able to, and a lot of times in the media, unfortunately, that's all that they see. So we just have to be there to be able to reinforce and make sure that they recognize that you don't have to be that to be, beautiful and things of that nature. That doesn't have to be.
I think going back to kind of what Jacoby was talking about, accountability is very important if we want to change the narrative of hypersexualizing women in our community, because it's not a new phenomenon. These things happened in our mothers' generations and their mothers' generations, but because it was family members and people who we were familiar with and close to, they decided to sweep it under the rug just to save face. And I think that it's important to be able to be truthful about the situations that we're in. If you know your brother is a predator, then we need to hold him accountable for that and not just allow him to continue the same cycle and just sweep it under the rug just because he's family. I think it's important that we start there. We have to hold hold the people accountable, because like Jessica said, a lot of the times it's not strangers. That's why we couldn't sleep over at our friend's house or even at our family member's house, because our family knew who we were dealing with. They knew who was at those houses. They knew what they were capable of, but because they didn't hold them accountable, it just skewed the whole vision of and I think that's where we start. We have to hold those people accountable, and we can't just let them continue to be who they are just because of who they are.
Brianna, I think that's an excellent point. And I feel like it really came to a head like with the R. Kelly situation. You know, Black people had to make a decision. A lot of Black people had to make a decision like, okay, are we done taking excuses, and are we going to offer up another Black person to the system? And I think even more so in families, like you said, saying like, to me, it's a lot easier to cancel R. Kelly than cancel your uncle or your dad or your somebody, because at the end of the day, it has to be a fully committed effort on the part of a child most of the time to say, yeah, that's Uncle so-and-so, I stand by this, when they're looking at you in your face like, I didn't do this, right? Like, you got to still be like, no, you did. And then at the end of the day, somebody's got to get rid of a family member. And that's hard. That's really hard. And I think that you're absolutely right. That's where it needs to start. But how do you think that we should even think about it going forward? Because I think so much of the barrier and so much of what's difficult is it's much easier to believe that your child made something up than to think that your brother would do something to your child. And that's really the truth of it. That's the ugliness. And when people are like, how did you not believe your kid? It's like, well, it's not that I didn't want to believe my kid, but at the end of the day, I didn't want to believe that my family member that I trusted was a molester. And that is offering more people up to the system, and so many people are against that. And I'm speaking from, you know, a place not blindness with this. So I'm earnestly wondering, like, how do you think that we should all handle this?
I did want to say one more thing. I can't remember who said it. I think it was you, Jessica, about like your parents not letting you go over everybody's houses. I wish we could kind of get back to that, because I see like a lot of kids, like their parents are, well, when we could go outside, like their parents just dropping them off at the mall or dropping them off at the movie theater. And then they just out there. And it's just like, how are you, like, what are you doing? You can't even take care of yourself. Like my parents were the same way. I think it was like 3 people K through 12 that my mom and dad let me go over the house, and my mama knew who their parents were. They knew where they stayed. They had their phone numbers. I went to school with them. Like they knew everything. So if anything went wrong, it's like they knew where I was at all times. And I had enough, I guess, sense to be like, okay, if I'm moving to another location, let me call my mom and daddy to let them know I'm going over here. So if something goes on, then they'll know how to come get me if something does happen. And they'll tell you, like, if I don't care if you got to wake up at 3:00 in the morning, if something is going on and you don't feel comfortable, call me and I will come get you right then. And I think if we could kind of start getting back to that as well, it would be a little bit better too.
One short thing that I wanted to mention also, we were talking about accountability a lot within our families, but I also want to go an extra step and say accountability with our friends and our friends from college and stuff. So many stories have came out recently of people who have been sexually assaulted or raped coming out and telling their stories like, yes, this person raped me in college. Yes, this person touched me inappropriately, sexually harassed me. And then I've seen so many stories to where people have saying, no, he did it. Oh, no, he would never do that. He would never do that. And in that same vein, we're basically telling a Black woman that her pain is invalid, her pain isn't true just because that's been a good friend to you. Just because that's been a good friend to you doesn't mean that he's not capable of victimizing someone else. So I feel like accountability goes within our friend circles as well. Like, tell your homeboy, like, you can't do this to women. You can't victimize women. You have to respect Black women. So just protecting those around us is important as well.
I just think overall we have to hold ourselves accountable, and we have to be willing to have those hard conversations and willing to actually listen to people and believe their stories before we go to judge and speculate. We just need to listen and believe people. And I also think, like Ashley was saying, as women, we are, as Black women, as curvy women, we are hypersexualized. So we have to be cognizant on our attire and what we wear. But at the same time, we got to teach our young Black men that just because a woman is dressed a certain way doesn't mean you can comment certain things or you can touch certain things just because you see it or it's popping out, okay? Jacoby said something about when you're at the club with your girls, and the first thing I thought about was the memes where, you know, the girls are like in a row holding hands walking through the club. Like, that's a real thing, and it's for safety, because when, as Black women, when we're out and we're dressed a certain way, men perceive us as wanting some attention that we don't necessarily want. We want to just have fun with our friends. So, like I was saying, you know, just hold yourselves accountable on what you wear and how you present yourself. But as a man, or, you know, whoever else is watching, watch what you say to women, and, you know, how you present yourself to women. Just because they're dressed a certain way, it's not okay.
Super solid points, and I'm sure the men that are going to watch this are going to value the things that y'all just said from their perspective, because those are strong. And I wrote down like 4 different things that I need to make sure that I'm speaking life into the young boys that I'm mentoring, that I'm around a lot. So I appreciate those things. But like I just wrote in the chat, I don't want to have everybody here all day. We're looking at the 2-hour mark now, and so. Just 3 more questions, real brief, or be long-winded as you want to. But one of those questions is, in the wake of everything that's going on in the current climate of America and all the protests and everything that's happening, what does justice look like for Black America?
You should have started with that one. Oh Lord. I feel like justice to me is meaning that everyone's voice is getting heard. Like, I know right now I've been seeing a lot of things on my timeline about, okay, Black Lives Matter, which of course, but then there's like little subcategories, like there's the LGBTQ community. I've seen like there has been a rising of trans women that have been killed in the last couple months. And it's like, when I see certain people post different subsections about Black people, I'll see that they're trying to like discount, like, oh, that doesn't count. It's like, no, that person's still Black, even if you don't really agree with their lifestyle or agree with the community that they're in, like, they're still a Black person. And I feel like until everybody can get to that point where people, like, we're all human at the end of the day, we're Black, we want to be treated as equal, no matter what we look like or what we're, you know, what community we belong in. I don't really feel like justice will be truly a thing for us. And it's like, and that's something that the Black community has to deal with as well, because you do have those groups where it's like, well, we Black, but we this, and we Black and we that. And it's just like, at the end of the day, when other people look at us, they just seeing Black people. They're not really seeing a light skin with this type of hair and went here. We're just all Black. So I feel like if everybody's voice can truly be heard and valued, then some progress will be made. But until then, I don't think any justice will truly be served for everybody.
I think when it's justice is when it's equality. And when I say equality, I mean, you see so many Black people in the system who create the same crimes as white people, and they're usually charged, their charges or their sentence is 2 times as harsh. Or some white people aren't charged at all and the Black people are charged. So I think once it's equal, once it's equality, we talk about justice because, yes, people have to serve the time for the crimes that they commit. But once there is an equal playing field for the crimes that are committed, because it's usually the exact same crime. So once that is equal, then I think we'll get justice. Because I think sometimes we look and because we don't get justice, that we just settle, okay, we got justice, so in some form or fashion. But if that justice isn't equal to what you would usually charge a person who looks like me, then is it really justice, or did you just slap them on the wrist to appease me, to make it seem like that justice was served?
I would agree. I think accurate representation is really important, especially what we learn in history books, because I feel like it being watered down and whitewashed is very dangerous. And that's why so many people are like, I don't really understand what you're upset about. Like they see some very glossed over version of slavery and our history. But when we talk really about how terrible slavery was, or we talk about Juneteenth, or we talk about things that we should learn about and give a more accurate representation of the plight of Black people, that creates generations that are not then continually like blissfully ignorant. And I think yes, we do need legal justice for all the things that we're fighting for. But I think in the grander scheme, it's going to also be like a reversal of this denial, I think, that white America has had with regards to Black people and how they've treated them. And it's been a nice wrapped up history. Yeah, we were mean to you a long time ago, wrap it in a bow. It needs to be a lot more explicit and a lot more openly reviled as a terrible mistake in American history. And that is going to shape the minds who then go forth. Like, because our generation, we're kind of stuck in a world. Like, you believe what you believe. There are a few people who you can convert in the middle, but most people aren't. But the hope is in the new generation of like, hey, you know how you love whipping and nay-naying or whatever is the new TikTok dance of our children or whatever. It's like, also remember that like your friend used to literally be in shackles. You could castrate them, you could own them, you could treat them worse than you can treat dogs today. And that was not right. And to have that understanding early on in people's education, I think is going to be the most like transformative change in a wide sweeping stance, because education is pretty much the foundation of everything that we do, how we are taught to view the world and people.
I kind of had the question earlier. I had it written down earlier, which Kobe touched on it a little bit, but I'll need a little bit more so that we can give people. Overall, I want to know how can Black men help support you guys as Black women? What are the things that we can do? What is your cry, plea, or advice to us so that we can assist in the movement forward?
I would say that my advice to Black men would be to partner with us. I wish that we could stop having these arguments on social media and going back and forth about things. I wish we could just learn to work together, because ultimately Black men and Black women, we can do so much more together than we can apart. So my plea is just to work with us, to be our partners, to not be in competition with us so much. And also to protect us, because we talked about a lot today, and a lot kind of centered around the safety of Black women, Black children, just Black people in general. But I think we need to work harder. Black men, we need to work harder to protect Black women, and vice versa. Because like I said, we can do much more together than we can apart.
I agree. Be able to walk along beside you all. Not, us in front of you, you all in front of us, but to actually be able to have that, like Jessica said, partnership. We know that there's so many things in this world that are to work against you all, but with your frustrations and things that come with that, don't take that out on us. Know that, we're not we have your back. And so don't let those frustrations that you all have with the world be able to, basically, we know where the aggression and where that anger comes from, but don't inflict it on us, because we have your back. we're there by your side. We're trying to, we're your biggest support system, but we can only be that support system if you allow us to be.
I think for me, it's just be a friend. Because a lot of the times, if men wouldn't sexualize women or always be on the hunt, because I know a lot of times if you're on the hunt and you get rejected, then your feelings are hurt, which I mean, I get it. But like, if you're a friend, I feel like there would be more of an understanding to the Black women in the community, because my Black male friends are phenomenal people, and I feel protected by them. So I think if men had that sense of like, let me not try to be on the hunt or pursue her as like relationally, but just to be a friend and to just have that understanding of the struggles that we go through, and not saying that we are downplaying the struggles that you're going through because you recognize ours. Just recognizing that we're in this together. And I know a lot of times, even, in your families, you have disconnect, you have arguments. So those things are going to happen, but that doesn't mean I'm against you as a male Black man. And like she said, we're here for you. Like we have your back. Like Black women are like the epitome of having the Black man's back. Like we will stand up for you, but I need men to recognize that we're not emasculating you in that process, that we're actually trying to build you up. And I think that that's just like the bottom line of it all.
I would say protect Black women, love Black women by allowing them the space to be who they truly are. And the concept of being a Black woman is forever changing, forever evolving, but still allowing them the space to do that, to be, to go through the different changes of life, but also supporting Black women as they advocate for their best interests within the workplace, within the home, within society, just supporting them, supporting their efforts, not condemning them, not putting them down, like, what about, no, support all around, support us as we're supporting you too.
I think the biggest thing for me is I would like Black men to listen for understanding and not always to respond. I think sometimes when I have conversations with people in general, it's like they're so focused on responding to what I'm saying that they're not actually listening to what I'm saying. You're not hearing me. You're not listening to me. You pick up on, if y'all seen them memes where it's like you see this long text message thread and they pick like one or two things that they want to point out. I think that's what men do in general. And it's really frustrating because it's like, you're missing the point. And sometimes I feel like Black women have to say it over and over and over again for them to finally be like, oh yeah, I get it. And it's like, if you would have just listened to me the first time, we could have saved. So I'm not yelling at you, Gerald. Then we could have just, but it goes both ways. I think a lot of people, they just listen to respond and they're not listening for understanding, and they're just learning how to communicate in general and learning to agree to disagree. If I'm telling you something, you don't like what I'm hearing, like what I'm saying, you don't have to be defensive either. We can agree to disagree and have a peaceful conversation, debate, or even an argument. So that's what it is for me.
Also, to what she was saying, that I feel like a lot of Black men feel like Black women are like a safe space to kind of like, I won't say like beat up on intentionally, but they feel like they can just kind of, be a little rougher and things like that. And it's just one of those things, like, if you believe that is true, it becomes true. Like that long-suffering, strong Black woman archetype, like, we don't always have to be long-suffering. Sometimes we need a friend to confide in. Sometimes we want to be vulnerable and we want to need you, like the same way you go seek, okay, this other race, like they make me feel more manly or they make me feel more needed. And, this is obviously not all Black men, but this is definitely the trajectory of some Black men. And it's like, what you don't like is the strongness in the personality and the delivery, but it is literally an adaptation, a result of having to be stronger, because you don't want to shoulder the burden. Yet you see that, like, so many Black men are so willing to be like, oh yeah, me and Sarah Kate, or me and whoever else from this other, like, you know, nationality, like, yeah, we get a little great. It's like Black women also are supported. We're also in your corner. But we shouldn't be demonized for the strength that has literally been not really an option.
For me, I would say to the Black male, and this can go interchangeably to us as Black female as well. I would like for you to learn who you are, who you come from, your history, because like I said, it works for us both. We can't truly love anyone until we know who we are, and that's a lot of the Black issue. Just about everything that we talked about today can stem back to that we are people who, a lot of us don't know where we come from or who we are or how powerful we are, the things we've created, the things we've done. So to the Black male, I would say discover you so that you can love the Black woman the right way and protect her the right way, because y'all know we for y'all. I mean, that's just a given. Even the other folks know that, you know, we for y'all. That's just portrayed worldwide that the Black woman is strong and she uplifts and she's for her man. But for the Black male, I think there's a lot of deep, the Black male and female relationship, there's a lot of deep underlying issues there that stem way back to slavery times, you know, when we were hostages. So I think we first to begin to heal and to begin to really be there for one another, and for the Black male to actually be able to protect the Black woman in a way, in a sense that we desire. You must first learn who you are and love yourself.
Yeah, my daughter obviously want to act like she want to talk to y'all. But I'm sorry. I guess the last little standing point that I had is what is your message to a young Black girl in the current state of America?
My message is that you are loved. I know that sometimes the media and the things you see around you don't say that or don't exude that, but you are loved just as you are. I know a lot of times, because we even talked about it, as you're growing up, there are certain things that you deal with, certain insecurities that are placed on you, sometimes unconsciously by your family, by your friends, by the people that you're around. But you are loved and you are appreciated just as you are. No matter your skin texture, your complexion, your hair texture, the way you are made, it's just you are made in his image. You're perfectly and wonderfully made. He designed you exactly how you were supposed to be. Be confident in who you are and what you believe. Don't let anyone back you down from who you feel like you are in your heart, and the things that you believe in, your beliefs. Stand strong on those, no matter who disagrees, because I know some people might have more influence on you than others. Always be receptive to change and to learning and to the insight of others, but never let anyone sway or deter you from who you are at your core. And I think that's it.
Girl, that was powerful. You did that. I'm sorry.
That was good. I would add on to that also, just saying you are enough, period. Don't let anybody make you think any different. Don't try to grow up too fast, because whenever you get in this adult grown-up life, it is real. So as long as you can be a child and just, enjoy life, honestly learn who you are and become the person that you're destined to be, start at an early age. A lot of us, we wait until we become an adult to really kind of discover ourselves, and then we kind of, can reflect and see things that we could have done differently had we, maybe taken life more seriously and been focused. So everything that you just said, and just that little bit of extra sentiment, not even much else to say. You said it all.
I would, yeah, she said a lot of great things. I would also say just like keep taking up space, young Black girl. Like, you are magical and worthy of all all of the power that you're given. I think a lot of times as Black when we deflect our power, like, oh, I don't know why they care about my opinion on this or why people think about this. Like, no, just embrace that. Like, you're fantastic. People gravitate to you. You are a powerful, powerful being, and you should be respected, and you are valuable. And to also take that with you within your interactions and not be caught up in the fears of if someone does transgress that, that it's fine. It's not fine. You're a royalty, you're valuable, and it's not okay for people to treat you like you're less than. That's what I would say.
I think for me, the only thing I can add is just trust the journey. And I mean journey in every sense of that term. It's like how Ashley was saying, just trust who you're becoming. I wish if I could go back and talk to the younger version of myself, there's so many things that I would say. One of the biggest things would just stop worrying so much about everything. Like everything has always and will always work out. And I think I would also tell myself, like how you all have said, just be you, be unapologetically you. Like if people don't like it, then that's their loss. Along this journey, you're gonna lose some people, you're gonna lose some friends, you may even lose some family members, but everybody can't go where you're going. And that's okay. I think I used to be so focused on trying to take everybody with me, and I'm wonder why I'm tired and I'm not happy and I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. And once I stopped dropping people off, I was like, okay, you just wasn't meant for this part of my life. And there's nothing wrong with that, or the person that had to get dropped off, but it's like, do the things that truly make you happy and truly add to who you are and who you are trying to become, because you only get one life to live on this earth. And I am trying my best to make sure that I'm living the best life I can be. That way, when it is time for me to no longer be here, I can truly say that I am happy and I was doing the things that I wanted to do, and I was helping the people that I wanted to help to make this world a better place.
Well, I think pretty much heard from you guys, and I received that, and I'm going to push those messages and these gems that you guys have dropped from the Black woman's perspective into the different circles that I'm involved in, because these conversations aren't atypical for me. But I want to personally thank all you guys for taking out the time to join this conversation. It was needed. It's important. And I think that there's a lot to be learned and gained from this. So I'll be sure to let you guys know when to look out for this on different social media platforms. But thank you guys for everything. And I look forward to another dialogue. This is part of a 4-part series that I'm doing. The male perspective was first. You guys are second. I'm doing kids next. And then it'll be a combination of all 3 groups on the same type of platform and having discussions. So if you're willing, I'd like to have you guys again, but I'll get in contact with you about further details with that. So again, thank you, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Thank you for holding this space for us.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you all, Queens.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Y'all too. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.